Let's just give you a recap of our two top stories here on Al Jazeera. At least 65 people have been killed in a 6.3 magnitude earthquake that hit Christchurch in New Zealand on Tuesday. Prime Minister John Key said, and we quote, "We may be witnessing New Zealand's darkest day." Also, a state of emergency has been imposed in the city amid fears that the death toll may very well rise. Also, Libya's leader Muammar Gaddafi appeared on state television denying rumours that he's fled to Venezuela and says that he's in Tripoli. The United Nations has condemned airstrikes on protesters in the capital and the cities of AlJazeera and Misrata. And several Libyan diplomats around the world have also resigned. That includes the ambassadors to India and 4 diplomats in China. Well, let's get an update on the latest from social media sites. Nazneen Sadri has been monitoring them at our web desk. Naz.
Thanks, Sahel. Well, social media sites are slightly quiet at the moment in terms of messages coming through from Libya. What we are seeing, though, is quite a few new videos being posted onto YouTube. Let's take a look at these posted on the website Feb 17th. This film shows doctors reportedly in a Tripoli hospital treating wounded men. It's unclear when exactly this film was shot. First. And this video was also posted on YouTube, was reportedly taken in the Jerba street area of Tripoli on Monday night. It shows a lone gunman shooting at an unseen target. There were reports overnight of snipers firing at protesters in the city. Lots of chatter on the internet about the use of mercenaries hired by the Gaddafi regime. This video was posted by a blogger in the last few hours. It appears to show the mercenaries in the capital, Tripoli. Reports say the city is in a state of lockdown and that these troops become quite active in the night. As we can see from the footage, it's taken from a car, of course reflecting the dangers out there right now. Well, with phone and internet services very restricted, Libyans inside and outside are trying to do everything they can to get information out. Naima Khalifa is a Libyan living in the US state of Tennessee. She's been speaking to her family in both Tripoli and Benghazi via the so-called Magic Jack internet box. She described to us how the system works to get around those curbs.
It's an internet device that it's called Magic Jack, that you can hook it to the telephone and make phone calls. It has the US phone numbers. The connection, though, is very, very weak, and I can barely hear them. And it's on and off. I can use it. If you can use it on and off, sometimes the line disconnects in the middle. I called my sister in Tripoli, and they're being very terrified. They hear that fighter jets bombing the city of Tripoli and attacking any gathering in the streets, anybody on the streets. They're attacking them.
Well, that's it for the web desk for now. We'll bring you an update again very soon. Back to you, sir.
Thanks very much, Nazneen. Well, 31 people have been convicted on conspiracy and murder charges surrounding Godra's deadly train fire in 2002. Now, the fire triggered anti-Muslim rioting during which 2,000 people were killed. Prerna Suri joins me now from New Delhi. Just tell us a little bit more about that verdict and who was convicted.
Yes, Sohail, well, after a very long 9 years, a court in Gujarat has finally come out with a verdict on the Godhra incident, which you just mentioned in your introduction. It relates to the burning of a train which passed through the city of Godhra. About 59 Hindus were killed when a mob attacked that train. Now, as you mentioned, it led to the worst communal riots. And today's judgment is quite significant because the judges have said that out of the 105 men who were arrested that day from Godhra, most convicted for the burning of that train. 63 of them significantly have been acquitted. Now remember, this has been a very long drawn-out process. A few men have actually died in custody waiting for this verdict. Families we've spoken to in Godhra were also waiting eagerly of both the accused as well as those who had burnt in that train as well. And it is expected that this verdict will be appealed because this is just a lower court in Gujarat which has come out. Families of the victims that I've spoken to of the accused, they say that they are going to take this ahead to the Supreme Court and to the higher courts as well.
When there's any issue or story that surrounds communal violence, Prerna, there's a great deal of debate across the country. How has news of these convictions been received, certainly in the national media for the moment?
Well, Sohail, this case has been highly political. There have been human rights activists who say that the right-wing Hindu government in Gujarat used the in Godhra as a justification for what happened after that, the communal riots that we saw in Gujarat, some of the worst violence that we've seen in this country in recent years. We have been getting reactions from the state government. They say that this has been a landmark judgment. They say that now the punishment should be given to the accused as well, those who have been convicted. Human rights groups that I've been speaking to, civil rights activists in Gujarat, they say they are going to take this appeal to the higher courts, and they are questioning the conspiracy angle which the court has mentioned. There was this big debate whether this attack on the train was a conspiracy, whether it was a pre-planned attack as said by the right-wing Hindu government, or whether it was just a random act of violence, and the court today has said it was a conspiracy. Human rights activists say that they will challenge this.
Well, we shall see what does happen. Prerna Suri there in New Delhi, thanks very much. Political rallies in Bahrain continue unabated on Monday night. Demonstrations were held both for and against the government. An estimated 10,000 protesters gathered for another night at the Pearl roundabout in the capital, Manama. The area has become a focal point for anti-government demonstrations and was the scene of violence last week that left 8 dead. 2 high-ranking US politicians have pledged their support for political change in Tunisia. Senators John McCain and Joe Lieberman met various government and business leaders in Tunis on Monday. They also met with the country's caretaker Prime Minister Mohamed Ghannouch. Former US presidential candidate McCain said his country remained committed to its military relationship with Tunisia. February marks nearly 2,000 days since the capture by Hamas of Israeli soldier Gilad Shalit. Cal Perry looks at how the case of the missing soldier continues to affect the pace of Israeli-Palestinian negotiations.
A tent has been wedged here in central Jerusalem for more than 4 years, pressuring the Israeli government to secure the release of one of its soldiers. Gilad Shalit was captured in a Hamas operation along Gaza's border that lasted less than 30 minutes. His imprisonment by Hamas, a central issue in Israel, has lasted years.
It's about time, after so many days and months and years, it's time to resolve this crisis and to bring him back home immediately.
Those sentiments probably come as no surprise to any parent. But this father has the burden of weighing the big picture with getting his son back. Freedom for Shalit would require a willingness by Israel to make political sacrifices, Palestinian prisoners for one Israeli soldier.
So 1,000 prisoners could have been a long time ago released. I would call the Palestinian families of the prisoners to put pressure on the Hamas leaders.
The former chief of the army recently handed his post over, and in doing so expressed regret in his failed efforts to free Shalit. And now the incoming chief is facing a new regional reality, one that does not include perhaps a direct line to one of the most major players in the mediation thus far, Egypt.
We do not really know how does the coordination continue. Omar Suleiman was the #1 man